Today I'm going to do a long-term review of the Garmin Epix Pro Gen 2 Sapphire Edition in the 51mm watch face right here. I've had this watch for over a year now. I've used it basically every day, and so I'd like to share my experience with it. So Garmin makes a lot of watches. I mean, a lot. They have watches of all shapes and sizes, and for what seems like pretty much every activity you could do, every specific use case you can have. So the Garmin Epix Pro falls into Garmin's higher-end outdoor smartwatch category. That means it is pretty rugged, has a metal bezel, is waterproof, has really good multi-band GPS support, has built-in maps, and has a higher price tag. But really, it's very similar to their Fenix 7 Pro line. Really, the main difference between those two watches is the display type. The Epix Pro has a bright, colorful, slightly higher res AMOLED display, while the Fenix 7 Pro has the memory and pixel display. And the pros and cons, well, you get, I would say, the better display with the Epix Pro, but then you get slightly better battery life with the Fenix 7 Pro. So those are kind of the things that you're weighing there. But really, the battery life isn't that huge of a difference in my opinion. So the Phoenix, I think, will do like 28 days or longer, and that's like always on mode default settings, while the Epix in its always on mode will get you up to 11 days or so. But you can turn the always on mode off where the display, won't always show everything. It'll kind of go to black until you look at the watch, then the display turns on. And in that mode, you can get over 28 days as well. So why pick the Epix over the Phoenix? Well, I chose the Epix because I wanted the color display that's high resolution, and just in my opinion, it looks better. The Fenix 7 Pro display is kind of dull looking. The colors are muted. It's just because of the display type. And so I really wanted those bright colors and sharper display, high resolution display, and it really comes in handy for maps and such features like that. So when you're out hiking and you want to look at the topo maps, they look pretty good on the Epix Pro. And to me, the 10-day battery life of the Epix Pro is plenty. It doesn't take that long to charge it, about an hour and a half. And you'll get a full charge. And again, 10 days is still quite a long time. Again, that's with the always on mode. If you turn the always on mode off, you'll get pretty long battery life as well. But that's just not how I like to run it. And I wear this watch pretty much every day, and it's held up really well. It's been banged around from just regular day-to-day use, from mountain biking, from hiking, scrambling on rocks and stuff. And it's been well used, and the display has not been scratched or cracked. The Sapphire displays are really, I would say, almost indestructible. I say almost indestructible. I will say, though, they do not hold up to welding splatter. So if you're welding, make sure to cover them up. I know a guy who sent me a photo after they had welded with it, and yeah, you want to keep that covered up. Just it can't handle the heat of the welding splatter, which makes sense. I mean, that's hot metal getting onto it. So some of the features of the Epix Pro that I use on a day-to-day basis are the following. Sure. Well, as a watch, right? Knowing the time. Phone notifications, really handy for just seeing if a text comes in or if there's an app notification, or even phone call comes in, you can answer the phone call or decline it. You can't talk on the watch, but you can answer or decline the phone call. So that's pretty handy, especially when those spam calls come in and you're like in the middle of the meeting. You can just easily tap on your watch and decline that call. Tracking activities. My main ones are, playing ultimate frisbee, cycling, some badminton, mountain biking, and then health tracking. So this thing will track your sleep, your stress, steps, heart rate, and things related to that. So I use that a lot. Another thing is checking the weather forecast. So things like, high temperatures, high and low for the day, precipitation, is it going to rain or not, or chances of rain and things like that. Also, another thing is the sunset, sunrise times. I find those really useful. Just knowing if I can get another activity in, or like a run in or a bike ride in at the end of the day. So easy for that. Or when I'm out taking photos, just knowing when the sunset or sunrise will be easily. That's just really handy. I mean, I have it on basically a field on the watch where it just tells me. So like right now, sunset's going to be at 8:11 today. Another feature that I really like on this watch that is really handy and quick to access is the flashlight. I mean, it's, a couple taps of the button and there, turns on. There's a little bit of a delay, but you can even adjust the brightness on it just via the watch face, but a couple taps and it turns off. So that's really handy. Use it every day. It's nice to have that built in. Another feature that I like but don't use unless I'm out on some adventure or hike or something is the maps. Really, really good. I mean, there's hikes and trails already built into it, and it's come in handy on multiple occasions. One time was out in Acadia National Park out in Maine. Was at the just climbed up precipice trail. There's multiple trails going down, and I was wanting to take the ridge trail basically down. I think it's the ridge trail, but ended up going on the backside just because when you get at the top, I was just following the trail markings, not really looking at my watch, and I thought I was following the trail, and it ended up on the backside, and I was like, okay, this seems wrong. So I checked my watch, and sure enough, I'm on a different trail, and I can see which trail I'm on right on the watch. But then I was like, okay, do I backtrack or do I keep going? And using the watch, I could see, okay, where does the current trail I'm on go? And I was able to just check that and verify that, okay, cool, this loops around, so I can stay on it. And so it's really handy for things like that. Also, you can sync this up with AllTrails and download, specific trails from the AllTrails app and put it straight to your watch. It's really handy. Again, I was up in Canada hiking. If you guys are familiar with the east end of Rundle hike out in Canmore, or just south of Canmore, really, pretty epic hike, but you get to the past the tree line there, and the trail sort of disappears just because you get into this rock field. And so having the watch and knowing where the trail actually is and how far you are off from it is really handy. Now, a feature that I don't personally use because I'm set up for Apple Pay on my watch is the Garmin Pay feature. So I typically use my Apple Watch for payment systems like that just because I already have Apple Pay set up. But some of you might find it useful because I double watch, most people don't. But if you need some kind of payment feature, Garmin Pay does. Is on these watches. So also Garmin does have an app store. I don't really use it that much, but it is out there. I have purchased some watch faces just because there's some watch faces out there that give me lots of fields that I can edit, and so that's why I didn't go with the default watch face. But the default watch faces are pretty good. I just didn't find one that had all the fields I wanted. So let's talk about a couple things that I don't like about this watch. From previous experience with really this watch lineup, whether it's the Epix or the Fenix, while they are waterproof, the buttons are not really completely waterproof. If you are swimming, you do not want to be pressing these buttons, and I know that from experience. So I was out in near Cabo snorkeling, Cabo in Mexico, and I had it in the open water swim activity tracking mode, and I wanted to change. I guess I was underwater and wanted to look at some metrics. I don't know why, okay, but I was. So I was pressing the buttons just to cycle through the menu system on it, or the metrics, and I mean it worked. But once I got back to shore later, I noticed that the watch was just dead, and I'm like, wonder what happened. So I get back stateside, I open the watch back up, and sure enough, some salt water had got it in there. So again, these buttons are not waterproof. Also, I had on the Tactics that I had a few years back, which is again very similar to the Epix and the Fenix, kind of really the same watch lineup, just some slightly different features. But I was using that for just some pool swimming, and I noticed that every time I would start a pool activity and halfway through the activity, the watch would basically just reset. But it happened really consistently. I'm not sure if it was a hardware issue or a software issue, but it happened pretty consistently. So waterproofness of this thing is I would say questionable. Another thing that is kind of questionable on these watches is the wrist-based heart rate. For the most part, it's good, but it can be kind of spotty, especially if your heart rate suddenly goes up. You're doing an activity or stopping an activity, but you don't have an activity running on the watch. So, for example, if you start running without starting a running activity, your heart rate's going to go up. The watch may not actually track that really well. I've also found that if I stop an activity, so I was running, had the activity going, heart rate was tracking pretty well, and then I stop, I'm done with the activity, so I stop the activity on the watch, and I found that after that, the wrist-based heart rate kind of just goes bonkers. It's like completely wrong. Your heart takes a little bit of time to slow down, but I'll have readings that are really low. Like so. And I've compared it to the Apple Watch. I think the Apple Watch actually does better. So Apple's probably algorithm is better. Not sure if the hardware itself is better, but whatever algorithms they're using seem to be better. I think Garmin just needs to update their heart rate algorithm.
And then it's connected. The heart rate's there, which now the heart rate monitor is disconnected, and now we're back at 74. Connected. 123. Yeah, that one's way off. We'll see. There we go. So I don't know what's up with the Garmin. This watch. I thought Garmin fixed this, but obviously not.
I would say if you really want super accurate heart rate, Garmin's chest heart rate monitors are great. So that's really it for things that I think are a little bit questionable on the watch. And I mean, I guess another con for these watches, and I would say smartwatches in general, is their batteries are hard to replace. And what I found is, you're spending $1,000 on these watches, or even Garmin's lower end watches. They're 200 to $300, their Venue series and all that. And it seems like your battery life is really only going to last 3 to 6 years, give or take. Kind of depends, whether you got good batteries or not, but how much you use it and all that. But expect to, in the 5-6 year range, you're probably going to have a watch where the battery's not so good. At least on the Fenix series or the Epix series, these watches are screwed down. So the watch face, you can open these things up and actually replace the battery on them. Obviously, that will void your warranty, but the warranty on these is only about a year anyway. So you can, after that, you can swap out the battery yourself. Usually Amazon has a third-party battery that you can put in. But on their lower end watches, $200, $300 range, they're glued on, they're not screwed on, and so it's a little bit more difficult to replace the battery on those. So, which is why I usually don't recommend Garmin's lower end watches. But just note that you're buying $1,000 watch with this in 5 to 6 years. Your battery life on it may not be great, so just take that into account. Well, I guess that's pretty much it. In general, though, I really like this watch. Highly recommend the Epix Pro Gen 2 with the Sapphire display. Get the one with the Sapphire display. I think this is one of Garmin's best watches. I love the display on it. Well, guys, that's it for now. If you've enjoyed this video, found it useful, helpful, give it a like so that other people can see it. And I'll, see you guys in the next one.